a good start. My name is Askia Benmetju. I'm the editor of Rag Trader magazine, and I will also be introducing the first speaker of the day. So first off, welcome to the Global Sourcing Seminars program. Our first speaker today is Dr. Neil G. O'Connor from Monash University, Malaysia, who will be presenting on something that every fashion, footwear, accessories business wants to know: how to maximise your supplier negotiations to get the best outcome. In this session, he will discuss the three big areas of negotiation when it comes to sourcing from overseas suppliers in order to optimise your business. I can't wait for this one. Please welcome Neil.
Thank you so much to be back in Melbourne again. And I'm down as head of the accounting and finance department at Monash University in Malaysia. Please don't be confused. I've spent 22 years in Hong Kong. I go back to China every month. I visit factories. It's part of my passion. I visit factories to give a lot of pro bono advice on how to improve their operations. So something that I'm very passionate about is understanding the supplier, understanding their business model, and understanding how they can improve before thinking about, okay, what's in it for me as the buyer. And I've seen a lot of presentations that talk about the American approach to negotiation. That is, you find ways to get power through having alternatives, having more information. And that's not the way for a sustainable approach to negotiation. The theme I want to talk about today, or the big theme of how to improve your negotiation with suppliers, is actually try and understand what is the supplier's business model, and is there some way that you can work with the supplier to help them to be sustainable over time. Because none of you want a one-shot deal. Put your hand up if you just want a one-shot deal. Most of you, you're in the business. How many of you are in the business where you work with merchandisers, or you actually visit factories yourself? Okay, so these are not one-shot deals. These are reoccurring. So it's great to take a very textbook approach to negotiation and say, yes, I've got that 10% reduction in price, but where does that leave you on the second order and on the third order? I've seen many of my clients that I do audits for get crushed on the second and third order because the supplier just jacked up the price by 20-30% each time, and then the client is locked in. So that's not the real way to focus on negotiation. So the theme today is, I want to introduce number 2, this 3-circle control framework, and you quote that, a bit theoretical, but it's just a way of structuring to want you to think about where are you strong in and where are you weak in, okay? And then think about how you can get strong in one of those 3 circles. So that's the purpose of that framework. Then I'm going to talk about what I've learned from factory visits and how that works in negotiations, and also ex-post negotiation strategies, so things that happen after the visit. I'll give you a real life case study on that, and also a recent factory audit that I undertook. So what I like to do, and here is the 3-circle control framework, and it's a question I want you to think about, and I'm happy for you to take photos, but I'm also happy to actually send you a PDF version of all of these slides, like 100%, with no reduction, and you get whatever you see today. All right? So you can send an email to me at neil@ricebox.com, and I'll show you at the end, so you have full clarity on that. I'm not here to sell you anything. I just love helping and connecting buyers with suppliers. Okay? That's my passion. I'm too old to start a new career. I just 22 years in China and Hong Kong, and just love being that place. Okay, so I want you to think about these 3 areas. In which of these areas do you feel that you're weak in? Which of these areas do you feel you're strong in? And something for you to think about with your team. Ask your team, if you have a team, to think about where is your team strong and where are you weak? Where are you relying on consultants, or where are you deficient and hoping that nothing goes wrong in which of these areas? So it's something for you to think about as we go through today and you might ask questions about later. Okay, so this is what I do. I just love going into factories. Here are two factories, and they're textile factories, and they're in Dongguan. And I went to these factories, so I was wondering why, with all the prices going up in terms of costs in Shenzhen area, Dongguan area, which is just opposite Hong Kong, how come these two factories are operating and still making money? And they're knitwear, they're making fabric. They're knitting machines here, and here we've got the knitting sweaters here, but how do these factories survive? And a lot of these factories, these small outfits, by the way, that's my merchandise last work visiting that factory. Merchandisers are such a rich source of information, especially in negotiation. How do they survive? Number one, they stay small, they stay under the radar, they pay no taxes, everything's cash. And this is how they can actually survive, all right? Number two, the factory at the top, they are outsourcing. They are outsourcing a lot of all the knitting. They don't have these machines here. They are outsourcing without telling you, the buyer. And that's another thing you need to think about. That's something that you can, in the negotiations, be transparent about with the supplier. Mr. Supplier, I understand you might outsource, that's fine, but just let us know. Let's bring that into the conversation. It's not something to be hidden. Okay? And number three, they are working with local employees and they actually pay them much lower wages because the local employees just want somewhere local that they can work and have some stable, small income. And they're not big on hiring foreign labour. But staying small, they're able to do that, okay? So I just want to show you that that's the type of stuff that I do. When I go, I spend a lot of time in the electronics area. I know this is not an electronics expo, and I don't want to spend too much videos on non-negotiation stuff, but one big point about negotiation is understanding the supplier's business model, because you get what you pay for. Yes, you can get a very cheap headphone set for $650 FOB, or you go for a more expensive one at 3 times the price. But what a lot of buyers don't understand is that when you go into the factory, this is what you see. This is the difference you see in the factories. And these are the same two factories for those two equivalent products. And so the factory at the top, there's absolutely no QC at all, zero. Here we've got full QC, especially when we're going through the air clean area. We have to go through it, and so there's a dust-free zone for all of the chip manufacturing and electronics. But here, you just go through a door. So you see, that's the difference you normally pay. You want a cheap price, you get cheap factory. The big thing that you may append onto your negotiation, you haven't got to this yet, is you want to think about the quality of the factory, because you need to bring in QC experts to actually check your order, to check before shipment. So what I tell buyers is, you go to a factory like this, maybe you get away with a minimum QC, minimum whatever the statistical quality control chart says that you should do. This one here, I tell buyers, you need to triple up on your QC. 3-4 times more than what the QC inspection will tell you. Okay, is this got everything? Is this related to negotiation? It has everything to do with negotiation, because it means that you cannot have the same negotiation strategy for every factory. Not all suppliers are the same. Not all factories are the same. That's what the big idea I want to show you with these videos. Okay, just yell out if I'm spending too much time on the videos, but 3-circle control framework again. The negotiation really starts with, it's not about, oh, here's my price, what's your price? Okay, oh, can you go lower? All right, that's negotiation. That's C2C negotiation in the Victoria market. Okay, never do that in B2B. Many of you are aware of that. All right, but it does start with questioning, and the first of those circles is the structure of the relationship, where you start setting up questions that you ask on the show floor. Like, you may walk around the show floor here, and do you have some questions that you ask? Do you have some 5 or 6 questions that you ask when you see the displays here? Yes or no? You got some questions, right? And so, and through your experience, you know to ask the same questions all the time. Okay. For the beginners, make sure that you structure that out, because you might ask one question for one trader and then another question for another. It's better to try and get an apples-to-apples response in terms of comparing different traders and questions. And so there's questions, show floor, factory visit, then you can start questioning negotiations, and then you start thinking about the business model. So what does that mean? So on the show floor, you may actually even structure it. So if you have a merchandising team, or if you send a team of yours to the trade show floor, you may ask them, okay, I want you to go to 5 or 6 merchants and get express detail on a particular fabric, on a particular item, a particular footwear. I've got electronics here, but just let's extend the example here. And then these are maybe all the questions that you ask on the other side, which are product-related features. So with the fabric, it may be the actual different design, it may be how coarse it is, and other aspects and coloration of the fabric. Okay, so on the trade show floor, we're asking all these questions, and then we're doing these comparisons. So that's a structured way of beginning your experience in gathering information. Many of you probably do this in your head, okay? Do you agree with me? Okay? So, but if you're working with teams that have not done this before, you may ask them, okay, I want you to formalise this so we have a spreadsheet. Okay? Now, when you go to negotiations, it might be good that you actually have, even though all the information's in your head, if you have it in a spreadsheet, it does help you in negotiations, because you're already communicating without saying anything that you have done some homework, you have done some research. And sometimes, all of you, this is a fashion and footwear show, so it's very big on the visual, am I right? Fashion, the visual is very big on the fashion. Negotiations can be visual too. You go to negotiations, do you dress up? I've got a tie on today. That all makes sense, right? These are no-brainers. Having an outline like this, when you go to negotiations, even show the slide. This is what I found for you and some of your competitors. You're just being open with them. You're showing the supplier that, hey, you have done your research, you are prepared. And so then that's a signal to the supplier, okay, I need to be careful about what I tell you, the buyer. Okay? So all of you, in your mind, have indoctrinated this structure, but what I'm telling you is that when you come into negotiations, maybe you need to put what's in your mind onto paper, bring that paper into negotiation. It's a signal too. You with me? It's not always hard. It's very difficult to signal that's everything in your mind. It's very difficult to signal your experience. Your job is not to catch the supplier out. Ah, I got you. All right, I already know that as a supplier you're wrong. You are inflating a price. I know that the more material prices. Your job is not to catch them out. Your job is to help them understand that you have done your research and that you want to have a professional conversation about this transaction you want to enter into. Okay, enough about questionnaires on the trade show. We can move that to the factory floor. Now, remember one of those circles with third-party inspectors, am I right? Remember, we've got structure, we've got verification, documentation, and then we've got inspectors. How many of you employ inspectors, or they're part of your team, in-house team? Okay, so inspectors are critical, but one thing that I'm realising from buyers and the many buyers I talk to is they don't use inspectors as a source of knowledge. They see the inspector as, oh, Mr. Third Party, here's the money, go and do this for me. And then give me the report. What I'm telling buyers now is, Mr. Third Party, teach me about this product that I'm getting inspected. You should learn from the inspector. Use the inspector to teach you. It's so critical. And so here's an example, and let me just start. Sorry, I'll show you the video. All right. So, for example, sourcing knives. I know none of you are sourcing knives. All right. You use scissors to cut cash. If you're sourcing knives, then you go, I went to an inspector to find out, okay, what do I need to know about sourcing knives? And so therefore, for a straight edge knife, this machine needs to cut through 60 cycles, 15 centimetres. If it's serrated edge, then 200 cycles, 150 centimetres. So it's an example of me going to an inspector to learn, okay, what is the standard required for this product that I'm sourcing? So this is an example of how you use inspectors to teach you. Right? Inspectors will never say no to questions that you have. So use the resource of inspectors. You're paying them. Okay, so let's move on. We get to the factory visit, and we're going. I've got a segment where I will show you some of the factory visits I did, or the factory audits that I did, and that helped in negotiation. But here, it's so critical. As I said, it's nice to be able to structure out your thinking and comparative logic of answers to questions on the trade show floor and put it into a spreadsheet. Exactly the same way for a factory visit. And many of you have visited factories in China and other countries. Hands up. So, excellent. So how many of you actually go in with a boilerplate questionnaire, asking questions? Okay, some of you good. But if you ask a factory auditor to go in, I've done audits of factories, you go in with a checklist. Just like before you take off on an airplane, there's a checklist you go through. And you go, Mr. Factory, can you show me your documentation reporting? Can you show me your QC area? So there's all these questions that you can go through. Full test, QC documentation, there's lots of questions that you can ask. And there are probably other questions that are relevant to the factory. The big message here is have some structure in the way that you are investigating this supplier. Okay, so let's think about when you get down to negotiations and you ask the supplier about, what is the cost of your product? And so one supplier might say $1, another one says $1.20, whatever product, okay? And sometimes you start to lean towards this product here because it's cheaper. Why? Because when you multiply it by 2,000 or 5,000 units, suddenly that 20 cents becomes $1,000 and more, right? So, you're thinking about margin. Okay, so the thing that a lot of buyers miss on negotiation is to just start asking questions to the supplier. Oh, Mr. Supplier, I see you have a very cheap, you have a very low price, FOB, compared to your competitors. Can you tell us about your costs? You want to find out whether this supplier that's given it to you dirt cheap, do they know the cost of their products? Many of the factories in China don't even know the cost of their water, their electricity. Okay? They don't even know their product costs. And if they don't know that, how do you know that supply is going to be around in 12 months' time? Remember, all of you are here. Negotiation is not a successful negotiation is not about a one-shot deal. It's about a repeated game, but it's about a sustainable relationship. So, by asking the question, can I see your cost breakdown? You talk to the supplier and say, look, I'm here to help you, Mr. Supplier. I'm not here to challenge you. I'm not here to work out another 10% lower cost. I want to know whether you can sustain this low cost. Are they just giving it to you to get you in the door and then they're going to get 20% higher later on? If they don't know their cost of transportation, remember you're not doing the XW, that means you're not picking up from the factory, they've got to transport it to the port. Have they factored those costs in? Have they factored in their costs of QC of the raw materials that are brought into the factory? Oh, we don't do QC on raw materials. Why not? There was one factory I went to, they make these products, $4 US, $4 FOB each. And I said to them, and I saw the factory, they had QC inspection, and there was over 20% reject rate. And I said, why don't you do receiving materials inspection? And the owner said, at $4 FOB, we don't have the money to spend on inspection at receiving materials. But those 20% rejections were a result of poor materials that were being received. And so they don't really understand that no inspection can lead to more costs down the road. All right, so taking that one step further, the first strategy, what is your cost breakdown? And suppliers may be shocked when you first say that. Okay? But it's about getting into a conversation about what is the supplier's business model? How well does the supplier know? Do they know if they're making a profit or not? I can tell you, I'm pretty sure that many suppliers do not know. They do not know the exact money they make on every product. Maybe a big family, but not exact. Do you think these numbers are realistic? These are questions that you can ask. You start negotiations once you have the facts. How can you negotiate on just the price that the supplier gives you at the start? That's the old way. And some consultants will say, that's all right, stay with the old way, but just get information from other suppliers that are competitors. So you show that you have the power, because you can go anywhere. Mr. Supplier, you take or leave it. Great, that's a one-shot deal. You're not going to get that on the second and third. Forget about that, right? The new way, maybe it's a new, buyers have been using this for years, but not many buyers don't know about, is to start to understand how is the supplier making money. Right, that's strategy number one. And some of you will say, oh, suppliers will never do this. But you get into a conversation with them about why it's important for them to understand their costs. You're not there to squeeze them. You're there to jointly make profits together. And if you can get into that conversation, that's very, very important. Strategy two is to actually go even broader. And that is to think about how you can actually help the supplier reduce their costs and actually lower their costs. So when you go on a factory visit, are there some things that you can do? Here are three ways, three things that you should do in any factory if you want to reduce their costs. Number one, okay, three things: cut administration staff. Number two, cut inventory. And number three is process improvement. Now the first two are very visible, and that's something you need to have a conversation with the supplier about. Suppliers, they love making huge volume inventory, but when you go to them and say, oh, I want this fashion product, but I want 5 different colours and I only want 50 of each, suddenly you're creating costs for the supplier, because the supplier wants to make 500 of one colour of one size. That's the volume that they'll like to work with. But once you start chopping it up and asking for customisation and small lots, that's where they get into trouble. And a lot of suppliers have trouble understanding how they make money on the small lot orders. So this is where you need to be in the conversation with them about, look, Mr. Supplier, I want to work with you for the long term. I have got good references from other buyers that you want to be around, you want to make good products for the long term.
Good morning, exhibitors. Good morning and welcome to the final day of the Success Program.
And so this, for strategy number two, we want to extend the negotiation into a conversation about, Mr. Supplier, how can we work to make your factory more profitable? And you become a buyer and then you turn into a consultant. And the supplier sees you as two people. One is you're a source of sales, but also you become a source of improvement information. You see that? Okay? Right? And once you can get to that stage, suddenly you're different from other buyers. And in some ways, that may allow the supplier to prioritise you over other buyers. Okay? Once you become a source of information, improving information, and as a source of sales, then you can start to ask for things. You can start to ask for more colours, or specific packaging, or smaller lots. And that's where you can actually start pushing the supplier in getting what you want. Okay? But getting that supplier to understand that you are a source of information, this is strategy number two. Okay? Strategy number one, in summary, is about asking questions about how well does the supplier know its cost structure. It's more just getting to understand, does the supplier know they have a viable business model or not? Okay? Strategy number two is morphing into you becoming a consultant and a source of information. We are all consultants. We're all consultants. Anytime someone asks you a question, you give information, you're giving information on your experience. So never put down your opportunity to actually help the supplier in terms of opportunity. Some suppliers may not like that, but that may be a signal to you that maybe that's not a supplier I want to work with in the long term anyway. Okay? So it's not about a price thing that's driving you away, it's got their attitude for learning and improving that's driving you away. Let me repeat. A reason to leave a supplier is more likely to be their attitude and response to your actions to try and help them. And not about price. Okay? Price shouldn't be the reason you leave a supplier. Unless they continue increasing that. And I'll come back to that at the end of today's talk. Okay? So just to finish this, the challenge is how to drive costs down, and you're trying to give information to the supplier. You're trying to help them to think about their inventory management and their process management or improvement. So I'm going to show you a video in a minute where we actually take it through a factory, and at the end they have these rejects, and then we can go back and find out, well, how does it happen that these products didn't pass QC? Well, let's go back to the process and actually find out where things are going wrong. So I'll take you through a video on that. We'll try and illustrate what we mean by strategy number 2. So far, I've given you a lot of theory, and remember, I'll give you these slides. I've given you a lot of theory, but I want to take you in and start showing you some comparisons to illustrate some of the ideas that I have spoken to you about. Okay? So remember, strategy number 1 is all about questioning what is the cost structure of the supplier. Strategy number 2 is going into consultant mode, where you are starting to inform the supplier and help the supplier improve their operations or how to cut costs and different things like that. So we can go into these factories, and here are 2 factories. And so what I want to show you here are 2 business models, and these suppliers, they know they are making money. But they're totally opposite. Not all suppliers are the same. Forgive me, these are not fashion suppliers, but let's go with the example. So this one's a B2B supplier, and they're making car audio units that just go into the car. And this one is making USB doodles that you will get when you come to an exhibition like this. You register, then you give you a free USB. Did you get free USB? Oh, you organise that. Okay, so for this one here, when you get free USB from a conference, association, or as a corporate gift, and it doesn't work, do you complain? No one complains. So, do you think the supplier has QC? No. Does it matter? It doesn't matter. Because the customer are corporates and associations, and not you and me, the individual, that can actually give feedback on Amazon and things like that. Okay? So there's no QC here. The way it's set up, but they're making money, $3 million US a year. Okay? Making money, this supplier here. Now, this $3 million US in terms of top line. So we're talking about revenue, not profit. Okay? The top one here is B2B. It's a different kettle of fish because they're selling to auto manufacturers, domestic auto manufacturers in China, not the foreign ones, domestic. So what happens is we carry lots of inventory. We're talking about 300,000 in inventory, and so a general rule of thumb is between 15 and 25% of that cost is the cost of holding that inventory every year. Wow. So I talked to the supplier about that. I said, yeah, we know it costs money to hold this inventory, but that's the nature of our business. Because we have these auto manufacturers, they just put in an order and we have to ship, put the software in and ship almost immediately. So they understand the business model. They know why they are holding inventory. But not all suppliers know why they are holding inventory. You see? So I just want to show you these business models. They are doing things that I say that suppliers shouldn't do. No QC, and you shouldn't hold too much inventory. But they're making money because these suppliers know what they're doing. Okay? So does your supplier know what they're doing? Do they know what they're doing to make money? So a few other alternatives or some other tips, and this is something that some of you probably already know about, so I don't want to harp on this too much, is to always have alternatives from 2 or more suppliers. Okay, you already know that, and like I said, put that onto an Excel spreadsheet or onto some paper as a signal to the supplier. Focus on non-cost items. I've already focused on that already. And understand if you're a small potato versus the size of the supplier. So many sourcing for Australian market, right? All of you? How many of you are sourcing for other markets? US, Canada, Europe? Okay, some of you. And so suppliers like it if you're sourcing for USA or Europe. Why? Because the market is bigger. Okay, you say supply. You say, oh, I'm from Australia. Oh, okay. All right, that let down the supplier, right? So, but you always tell the supplier, look, we are growing. Our business model is that we're starting in Australia, but we want to grow to USA. So you can give the supplier some forecast of what your plans are. And so give the supplier a bright future. So we're talking about you now, all right? For the last half hour, I'm saying we're focusing on the supplier. What is the supplier's model? What is the supplier's future? Okay. So some of these tips here are about, especially the second one or third one, is about your future. Okay. Are you big enough to get the attention of the supplier? Remember, if that fails, then go into consultant mode. So you're both a buyer and improvement expert for the supplier. Okay? So there's more than one way of getting the attention of the supplier as an important customer. Okay, so what about factory visits? So I talked about receiving inspection. Here's another example. Apologies again, but fashion is moving into consumer electronics. So once you start thinking about having holes for iPhones and you start having pockets to hold iPhones and different things like that, and suddenly the next thing is you're going to have pockets holding batteries, and the next thing is, oh, why don't we just make the item with the battery inside it already? Okay? Things happen. Think now of the box here. Once you start thinking about batteries, then you can get into a lot of trouble. Just an example, these are Hoverboard batteries, and 20 of those cells go into this blue pack here. This is one of the UL certified Hoverboard, those ride-on machines with 2 wheels, right? That was allowed to export in the US because after 74 fires around the world in 2015-16, the US banned all hoverboards being imported into the US. And this factory here was the first one that was certified to come in. They got the first UL certification to export into the USA. This factory here, no certification. It doesn't matter. Why? Because they were making, on that day, they were making 600 hoverboards for France. And so I told them, you know, you can't export to the US now. It doesn't matter. We've got 200 other countries. So just because some country has these standards doesn't mean, and a factory doesn't follow those standards, it doesn't mean that the factory doesn't have a viable business model. You with me here, okay? So not all factories have to be that perfect A1 factory that you're hoping to see that gives you no problems, no maintenance, and you don't have to visit. Very few factories. How many of you have a factory like that? Some of you, okay. Good luck to you, you have that, right? But not everyone has those factories, all right? They're all a constant source of maintenance. Like some people in organisations, some people need more maintenance than others. Suppliers are like that at the same time. And so you can see the difference between the 2 factories, certified factory and the workshop. We call that a workshop. Okay, that's receiving inspection. And so that certified factory was actually testing every cell that was coming into that factory before they would put it into the blue pack. The other factory wasn't doing that. This factory here, these are smartwatch manufacturers. And the big thing I want you to take away here, and like your negotiation, if you come to these factories here, you're looking for what is their experience with working with major brand names. So for example, we can take that to your example. When you go to the supplier negotiations, what is your experience in working with H&M, S. Oliver, Giorgio Armani, all of them? Like I've interviewed them the last 2 years about what they're doing with suppliers in China. Okay, so have they worked with them? Because the big idea from these videos is that one of these factories has a Japanese customer as their major OEM customer. And what does that mean? What that means, when the Japanese electronics, when they come in, they actually document everything. They document everything. They perfect QC, they want everything before they'll accept that factory as their supplier. And so once I knew that the Japanese was in one of these factories, and actually a major client, then I thought, okay, one of these factories is going to supply, one is not. One of these factories is gone. Gone, closed down. And which one do you think? It's no longer existing. Hands up for the top one. Hands up for the bottom one. Hands up. One at the top is gone. All right? Don't let uniforms deceive you. Okay? The big thing when it comes to processes and QC is about documentation. It's about documentation at the top and the whole process there. There were many things that we found in this factory here that were insufficient, so they lacked QC, and also they had, there you go, there's documentation here at the top of every operator. But this one here, the lady at the end was touching smartwatches without any things on their finger. Lots of moisture gets onto the smartwatch. There'll be any product, moisture gets on, dust gets in there, and that can contaminate other processes, or the final shipment package that you want to have clean and pristine, everything like that. Okay. Separation is one more important thing you think about. Remember, we're in the factory now, and so I guess part of this segment of my talk is to just make you more aware that, number one, not all suppliers are the same. And number two, Neil, you want us to 10 times our negotiations, and we do that by being a consultant, but I don't know much about factories. You all know something, all right? Once you start going to a factory, you start seeing things, and you start second factory, third factory, you start becoming a consultant after 3 factory visits. It's amazing how much information you pick up and comparative information that individual suppliers don't see because they don't always go to other factories. All right? So this is an example of separation where all of this smartphone manufacturer and everything is separated. But here, separation, no separation. And that's electronics. That's the last thing. This is a big no-no. You wouldn't even touch that factory. Wow, that's out of control, that one. Okay. I told you that as part of being a consultant, remember strategy number 2 in being a really successful negotiator is to actually develop that consulting side of you as a client, where you can try and help that supplier. You get into help mode, you get into pro bono help mode. And that is, well, how do you do that? Is there some way? I just want to give you an example here. So this example, this video, let me just prep and then we'll show you the video. What I've got here is this car audio manufacturer, and then at the end they've got a little micro SD card slot that goes into the unit. And what they found, what we show in the video, is the QC chart, and there are errors. And that is, they've actually tested, and the SD card doesn't go in properly, or when it goes in, it doesn't register. Okay, so that's a major problem. Okay, so let's roll the video and see the QC sheet. Then we go back to 2 stages to understand what's going on and how you can tell the supplier, well, maybe we can improve. There's the QC sheet. There's the problem. We found a problem there. Okay, always ask for the QC sheet. They all should have QC sheets. Fashion, any type of supplier need to have QC sheets. So there's the problem. We've identified the problem. The little micro SD is not going in properly. Okay, so let's go back through. We're going backwards in the process now. So I asked the supplier, take me to where they are screwing the electronic module onto the plastic. So we go to the operator who's doing that. So take us back to the operator who's doing it. Let's see how stable that process is. Well, it's not stable at all. He's trying to screw it. He's got it rocking on the table, and it could be screwed at a different angle. When I've done a lot of work with Apple and HTC, in their operations, they do have operators and they have a mould so it doesn't move. and they still do the screw. We go to the soldering item. Again, it's rocky and soldering. It's cross-state. It's very comfortable. I wouldn't be. But this is a critical activity, and I told the supplier, have a mould so it doesn't rot while he's doing his soldering, or try and ask the operator, is there some way to make it more comfortable so there's less variation in the process. At the end of the day, you want less variation in any process of any part. Sewing, this area here. All of you are probably more familiar, you go into the factory, there's sewing machines, there's knitting machines, there's lots of other type of machines. So I'm just hoping to transfer this idea to your context. Forgive me, I'm not showing you many fashion factories. But just a summary of that in terms of your consultant role. And remember, this is key to making you more attractive as a buyer. And that is so key to improving your negotiation ability. When the supplier sees you as an attractive buyer, not just another buyer. This buyer helps me or gives me some ideas. You're different from the other buyers. Right? Negotiation textbooks don't talk about that. So when you go to the factory, there's another summary of some things that I've found when I go into the factories. Ex-post negotiation strategies. Okay, here's a real case study of an audit I did and of a picture frame, electronic picture frame. A client from the US ordered this from one of these suppliers, Red and Blue, were the two different suppliers that I audited. This was over 2 years ago. And I just want to show you now, because at the end I just want to talk about what happened in the negotiation. Okay? Because today's session is about negotiation. So first of all, before negotiation, let's just talk about what we've got here. We've got two factories, and one is better than the other, and you'll start to see that. We'll go to the next stage. We can have a look at the queue. Attention to detail. One factory has much more attention to detail than the other. Of course, I need to put my shoe in this blue sock. How many of you do that when you go to factories? Maybe not so. Like dust is still important in any factory. So here, no sock on the shoe required. So already you've got a difference between the red and the blue. Okay. Then we go to the image and we start to talk about the final product. So here's the final product, and we're looking at the showroom. As you can see, the showroom is not better than this one. And so impressions. Initially, you probably think, wow, one of these suppliers is going to charge more. Which one do you think will charge higher? Hands up for the red, hands up for the blue. Okay, so you know the red is better. All right. So we can start negotiations. Here is what actually happened. On the first order, we went with the red supplier because we saw, okay, they got the QC, everything's set. But they said, we want $23 US, 10% deposit, and 40% before shipment. And the buyer said, okay, let's do it. Let's pull the trigger. And the buyer pulled the trigger, got the shipment. So on the second shipment, the second order was $26 US. Suddenly the supplier just put it up. And the same model, $3 US, just like that, boom, 12% increase. And this was less than 6 weeks from the first order. Like, how can they do that? They can, because that you just chose the better supplier. You just chose the supplier with more power. Negotiation can kill you if you just rely on the QC or the better factory to be the signal of, I want to stay with this supplier. This supplier has that better factory. You need to be careful, because this client got killed on the second order, and then the third order, they had another model. It wasn't much different from Model A, but then the supplier wanted $28 US. Suddenly, the client came to me, Neil, what do I do? This supplier, the price just keeps on going up, higher and higher. I said, what do you expect? This supplier was the better one. This supplier was making smartphones, and you just want to order picture frames? This supplier had perfect QC. It had the power. So then the client said, what do I do? I said, okay, let's go back to the first supplier, and they're only offering $20 US FOB for the product, and why don't you double up, triple up on the QC? So I said, why don't you just allocate at least 50 cents or $1 US to QC? $1 US to 2,000 units, that's $2,000 US. How many QC days do you get with $2,000 US? You're going to get at least 4 days of QC. And in 4 days of QC, you can easily inspect 200, 300 of those 2,000 units, which is a statistical table would say out of 2,000, you only need to inspect about 20 units. So my strategy for that client was, okay, go with the weaker supplier, they're struggling in QC, but ramp up your QC by 5 or 6 times and allocate some of your FOB price that you're saving to QC. Very critical. You cannot avoid the QC of, and so sometimes, what is the moral of the story? Think about the perfect supplier has perfect power, and you won't be negotiating with it. Yes, you might win on the first round, but you won't get to the second and third. All right, let me finish up. I want key takeaways, and then I'll finish up with a recent audit that I did of another product. Setting the scene, 3-circle control framework. The 3-circle structuring, documentation, and QC, which is more the verification. Which areas are you strong in? Which areas are you weak in? Normally in documentation, you want to bring lawyers in, but lawyers for a basic contract. Lawyers will not protect you from IP risk. It will not protect you from patent risk or trademark risk if you're a small player. Okay. Yes, for the big brand names, H&M, Giorgio Armani, Puma, you know, they can use that law to push out bad suppliers. But as a small buyer, that will not work. But what I do recommend is having a basic lawyer for a basic contract. Okay, so that's that one part of the circle. The big circle we talked about today was the structuring, that is, start formulating your questioning. And I told you about 2 strategies. The first strategy is, what is the cost structure of the supplier? The second strategy is moving into consultant mode where you're actually helping the supplier make more profit. And then finally, thinking about third-party inspection, that's part of verification. Learn from the third-party inspectors. They can teach you a lot. I think we underrate what third-party inspectors can do for the buyer. We always think, oh, here's the money, go away and do the work for me and come back with a report. Outsource. I'm too busy. Never too busy to learn. And they are a great source of learning. I think they'll teach you more than lawyers will teach you. Because they've got that operational knowledge. They have that operational knowledge. And that, your operational knowledge will give you more credibility in negotiation than your lawyer knowledge. Okay, ex-post negotiation strategy. Beware of supplier power. Beware of that. Continue to work with alternative suppliers and stay up to date with the pricing trend. So that's basic research, but the supplier power was one thing that was really vivid from that audit that I did for a client. I will finish with an audit that I did do, and not fashion, but this is becoming fashionable, right? These things are replacing earrings these days. Am I right? Anything's possible. And so that's what you might find on Amazon. So a client asked me, okay, I've got these 2 suppliers, can you do an order for me? Sure, but this is nearly impossible. Like, the price is going from $30 US up to 100. Once you get over $150 US, now you're competing with Bose and Shaw and all the top line. You're never going to sell. So you've got to stay down near the 30, 40, $50 US mark to sell anything. All right, so what does that mean? An FOB of less than $15 US might do it. So I went into 2 of these suppliers, and they made these 2 products in here. And I just pulled this out on Amazon just to get an an example of what they're trying to be, what they're selling for. So here are the two suppliers, Orvisian and GP Technology. And what are the prices they're charging? Well, Orvisian, they wanted $15 US FOB for 5K order. Wow. 75,000, you've got to drop straight away before anything happens. Wow. Okay. And then the second one, GP Technology, they wanted, they're talking about 23 US dollars, 25 US dollars. MOQ was only 1,000. Wow. So obviously it's a different price range. So what do I learn by going into those two factories? Of course, you need to see all these certificates. So in the fashion area, you're looking for certificates that are related to compliance and more. You're talking more about sustainability issues that you're thinking about. All right, underage labour, you've got the social compliance issues that's very important. Critical, underage labour, critical Australia and USA. Environmental, critical in Europe, sourcing into Europe. But they're all, it's all important, we know, coming into Australia as well. Okay, so you've got those certificates, you know that, but we need to go into the factories. And so the big thing I learned, and it's something I haven't harped on yet, and the thing to go away with at the end is what is the mind of the supplier, the owner. If you can meet the owner, that helps so much in thinking about how you want to push your negotiations. Because when I went into these two factories, I found a lot of things. And I'll just fast forward to meeting the owner. And because that day, they weren't even manufacturing those two products, so I was actually disappointed about that. When you go and do a factory visit, you want to make sure that they're making a product that's similar to what you want to order, if they're not making the one that you have ordered and you're doing a mid-production factory visit. How many of you have actually visited your own order being produced? Okay, so you've done that. It's quite revealing, right? It's quite revealing when you actually see mid-part of production and you start thinking, really? Is that the product I ordered? It will end up like that, okay? You're not expecting your half-made product to be seen. Okay, but this is where I met the owners. And this is where I saw that, okay, the mindset of one owner is totally different from the other one. This guy here, he wants to make the best earphones in the world. Remember, this is the $25 US FOB. But when I spent over 45 minutes just talking to him and asking him about his product, and he just wanted to sit there and just tell me all about the product. And he wanted to make the best in the world, and he's been developing this for over 10 years. Whereas so many people are saying, oh, just test it, just want to answer my questions, but no more. And it's like another product that they happen to assemble and they'll move on to something else. But this one here, I see this idea being sustainable. And how do you see the difference? By visiting the factory and actually meeting the owner and you see the mindset. So the mindset of the owner can give you much more clarity on whether, are they really interested in sustainability issues? Are they interested in these, child labour, all these others? Yes, they get the certificate, but that doesn't mean that they do it, okay? It's two different things, action and documentation. Okay? They all have certificates, but talking to the owner will give you a real sense of how much do they care. How much do they care about these issues? So when I tried out both those two products, this one here had a range of over 5 metres before the Bluetooth signal cut out. This one only had a range of about 3 metres. This one it was powerful, but he was trying to make the best in the world. So let me finish there. I just don't worry about that. I'm just here to help you. This is a work that I'm doing. We've got something on Udemy, and that's videos I've made for buyers that have not gone to China before for the first time. So that's found on Udemy. So let me just stop there. I'm happy to take questions, but more importantly, give you a copy of the PDF if you send to my Ricebox that you just see, neil@ricebox.com.
Does anyone have any questions? Anyone else? Sorry.
For smaller buyers, like us particularly, I guess, is there a good source for sourcing inspectors that we can use? Because obviously, for small clothing orders, we're not going to be flying to China or India to inspect.
That's a very good question. When you arrive in Hong Kong, many of you have, when you go to the airport cart, there's on one airport cart, AsianInspection.com, and then on another one there's ChinaInspection.com, and there's all these inspection companies, so there's lots of them. I would go to an inspection company, you're based in Melbourne, Sydney, I would go to an inspection company that has an office in Sydney, and you go and you head ranks and ask them. It's not about asking them how much they charge you, ask them how much do they know about the product that you want to source. And say, Mr. Inspector, can you teach me about my product? And then on AsianInspection.com, if they don't have an office in Australia, I don't get permission from them, but I have done some work with AsianInspection.com. Generally, they charge, for most Asian countries, they charge from $300 to $450 per day. You normally just need 1 day for a basic inspection to be undertaken. And that electrical fashion across the whole product industries. The big thing that I want to repeat again to the inspectors. Know who the inspector is. Ask them about, okay, so who actually goes into the factory? Okay? And what information do they go in with? And do they have a blueprint? And how different is your product from the blueprint that they use? And that's the problem. Sometimes inspections, you say, oh, it's a special product, it's a sweater, it's a jumper, whatever. And then they have their own blueprint on what to check for. So even though many of you are probably knowledgeable about it, some less knowledgeable, but go through the inspector. Go through with the inspector that you agree or understand what is the checklist. Oh, why are you checking for that? Oh, you're checking for this chemical. Why are you doing that? Oh, because the latest statement from the EU is that we need to check this chemical. I didn't know that. So the inspection companies say no about this. That's very important.
Hi, I work for a large travel company and we naively source our products through an agent handling the entire supply chain from start to finish. I can see you smiling, which is why I'm also concerned too, but we're considering taking on the entire supply chain, but we're also considering the idea of breaking that up into pieces. If we were to do this over a period of time, what would you recommend as a part of that chain to take on first? We can quite easily talk to a number of factories, all of those steps within the chain. From your perspective, what would you recommend taking on first?
And at the moment, you get to see what country you're sourcing from?
Mostly, yes, mostly.
Okay. Is that China? Or
yes, China.
So, and you're using an agent?
Yeah, 100%.
Wow, okay. So it's important is the agent improved over time in terms of how they are giving you opportunities to source from different suppliers, or they're staying the same suppliers over time?
they've stayed the same over that period of time. Their cost hasn't, but
Yes, okay, that generally happens. Agents like to do that because, and you don't know if the impact's going on and things like that. And so that's the stage that a lot of the buyers go for initially. Yes, initial buyers I advise, yes, start with agents is very important. Work with agents because you've got to go through that learning curve. Right? Then it goes to a point where you start thinking, okay, I want to go direct myself. That can become more expensive. That lead can be much larger. It's very hard to make a small transition. But one way of transitioning to that is to pick out one of the products in your portfolio that you have most clarity on about the quality requirements and specifications, as if you directly, regardless of the factory yourself, you know everything about that product. And then you trial that by going directly to one of the products in the portfolio. Okay. So it starts with, so you're asking for what's a great strategy, where would you start? You would start with one of the products that is probably the most simple and most easy to work with a supplier directly.
and you would manage the entire supply chain for that one product, or would you just manage the factory portion of the supply chain?
Okay, it depends on the factories agents that are working with and the volume that you would work. Yes, manage the whole supply chain. Remember, at a graduate stage, you're actually going through a learning curve. So it's going to be a learning process. You're not going to make it without learning. So yes, if you're a player going to do that, don't do that. How can you just have one product separate and then you've got to do the logistics, shipping, and containerization and everything, and then suddenly your costs go out? Well, if you apply that logic, then you're never going to make this step. Okay, so that's going to happen to start with. But now, with a lot of the way they do compartmentalization and containerization, now you have many more options as to shipping and logistics. And so your biggest risk is not the shipping and logistics, that's going to be an extra cost. Your biggest risk is actually developing that confidence of working directly with that factory and starting that relationship with direct. Because up until now, your agent did all the relationship work, right? And basically your agent just becomes an arm's length person you contract with, am I right?
Absolutely.
But making that transition, suddenly you're making the transition to have a relationship with a person in another country. So I would do that with the most simple product in my portfolio. And we can talk more, so you can give me some more details.
Great, appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
How regularly would you advise buyers or QA people to visit their factories? How regularly would you advise buyers to visit the factories?
How regularly? I don't want to say this. It depends on how much volume. Okay, the example I gave that buyer, he didn't visit the factories at all. He sent me as an auditor. And then I gave him advice. Whether he did one order, two orders, and something called okay? I would advise buyers to visit the factory before any order begins. You've got to visit the factory. Okay. And then your question is, how often after that? Every 6 months would be very good. Because things are changing so fast in China, Vietnam, and these countries. 6 months is a long time up north. So I would try to visit every 6 months minimum. But if you can't, 12 months, but 6 months is better. And you can combine your visits with discussion on the orders. So I'm assuming if you're ordering every other month or every 3 months, then minimum every 6 months. The factory visit is so critical. Allow me to speak for 30 seconds on this. Totally separate talk. I talk about the work I've done on the supplier blacklist.com. That's a blacklist where buyers from all over the world in the industry can actually launch and use a supplier from any country in the world. And so we got data from over 14 countries. I'm not saying that they're all verified, but one of the top 3 drivers of complaints and problems is they did not visit the factory. Please visit the factory. For those that have not visited visit the factory. And then regular guidelines 6 months. Thank you. That's a very good question.
One more question.
I've got 2 questions, so I'll get that. First one is you mentioned seeing certificates in terms of their social, not using child labour, which is pretty prevalent, I think, in the fashion industry. If we're not going to the factory, because again, small orders, what's a good way to verify that?
No matter how small, okay. I'll give you 2 options. You either go through an agent or a merchandiser, or you visit the factory. There's no other option. Apologies. You either go through an agent, you choose an agent to do it for you, or a merchandiser, so you can remain at arm's length, or you do the factory yourself. In other words, if you're taking the risk of going direct to the factory, you need to visit the factory. There's no replacement. You have to physically visit the factory.
But is that something you can outsource to an inspector or somebody like yourself?
Yes, you can outsource to an inspector, but what I'm saying is, if you're new at sourcing, I would recommend to go to an agent and pay 20% more until you get experience. I'm not saying that we're not new, it's a good question. But a novice that came to me and said, I want to get into sourcing. I said, well, don't go to factory direct. Learn a few things before going to factory direct. What I mean by factory direct is you're bypassing an agent. Bypassing an agent that is going to take 20% of your fee, but taking 20%, they're going to look after the factory, they're going to look after the risk of shipping and everything. So you don't have to worry about that. But once you say, okay, I want to save that 20%, the agent charges, okay, now you're taking responsibility for that too. You've got to visit the factory.
My other question was in terms of lead times and outsourcing. One of the things I've seen as a trend in this show, in talking to the factories, is some have very short lead times and some have very, very long lead times.
Yes.
Is the ones with the long lead times an indicator that they might be outsourcing their manufacturing? Can I read anything into somebody who says, oh, well, we can turn things around in a month, and others say, no, it's 90 days.
Okay, they can say anything to you, and until you get experience with what other suppliers are offering, then it's very hard to have a benchmark. So some of the top suppliers, or some of the top brand names, their challenge for the last 5 years is to cut down their lead product development time from 80 days down to 40 days and even more, from new product into the shelves. The only recourse you have is the information from more than one supplier, so you have some kind of benchmark. Because it's going to be different for every different product. Whether now, you just mentioned outsourcing. You're allowed to outsource. It's okay. You go into a factory and you've got no knitting machines and they're doing knitting for you, of course they're outsourcing. So you get into the conversation, oh, you're outsourcing this to supply. Can we have the order to go to the factory that you're outsourcing to? Because we just want to make sure that the outsourced supplier is compliant with the social compliance and things like that. Let me just add on something. A big trend that we can learn from, a big trend that's happening from my discussions with H&M and S. Oliver and Giorgio Armani, Puma, done case studies and worked with them, working on KPM and G report on the future sourcing in China and these interviews, is that increasingly they're doing less at a distance. Like these big brand names are now sending their design teams from Germany into China, design teams from Italy into China to work in the factory to get designs out in 1 quarter of the time. Because in their words, and they told me, doing this thing over email, it just takes too long to get the initial product to the stage where they can use the factory. And so now they send the design teams to China. So that if the big brand names are doing this, then the little people need to think differently. I think the last thing I do is try and do things that have business. And so that's a big trend. Many of you probably already know this already. It's something that I'm talking to product development teams in China. Face-to-face, on the ground, working in factories in China. Now, if you cannot go direct, at least hire a merchandiser and pay a merchandiser to do the work for you. A merchandiser, not just a merchandiser, that is someone that has specific knowledge. But they may call themselves agents, but work in an agent. Make sure they have specific knowledge of your product. And they have several factories that they can work with, not just one factory that they apply to.
Okay, thank you so much, Neil. Sorry, we need to reset the stage for the next seminar. If you have any further questions, please feel free to join Neil outside, and we'll have another seminar at 11 a.m. Please join me in thanking Neil for his wonderful speech.